Well, welcome back to OpenLine, talking about immigration here in Tennessee and in the United States. And the legislature today, Representative Glenn Cassada held a news conference and said some things that have made news, gotten a lot of response. And we played the story that Mark Bellinger did at 6 o'clock earlier. I want to play 45 seconds. This was Cassada's opening statement, basically unedited, just what he said at the very beginning. Then we'll go back to taking some calls. Let's play what he said to open his remarks today.
Now, I understand our Democratic friends are going to having a press conference, and it's disappointing that they are more concerned about being politically correct than they are about defending Tennessee lives. If I err, it'll be on the side of not having another Paris, France. We realize that ISIS and other Islamic terrorist groups have and are infiltrating the Syrian refugee population. So when we let them in, we are letting terrorists in. I understand the Democrats are concerned about politically correctness. I'm concerned about protecting Tennessee lives and preventing another Chattanooga, preventing another Paris.
So what do you think about that, the debate? Is it political correctness versus safety?
I'm just glad Glenn Cassada was not running Egypt when Joseph and Mary and the baby Jesus fled Bethlehem from the killer King Herod to seek refuge as a refugee, as a family of refugees in Egypt. I'm just glad Glenn Cassada wasn't ruling Egypt at that time, or else we might not have had the baby Jesus to grow up and do what he did.
All right, a bunch of calls. Let's go back to the phones. Reverend Fuzz. Reverend Fuzz, are you there?
Yes, I am here, Ben.
Go right ahead.
I wasn't going to call, but that very nice redneck lady who called in just really inspired me.
Okay.
And she gave a good segue with Mr. Cassada's press again, because I've been thinking all evening about how he reminded me of George Wallace standing on the steps of the university down there, said, "Over my dead body." And then finally, I got to go some religion in here, that there's something religious here. There's evil in the world. But when people break laws, and all that they're talking about is somebody come here and do something like that. We've got that in our country right now. You have law enforcement that prevent people from committing crimes against other people. If you take all the state troopers off the highway from Memphis to Nashville, even Ben Hall is going to speed. All right? So when you put state troopers out there, people drive the speed limit. You got to have law enforcement, because people will do wrong. I don't know why they do wrong. Maybe your guest can explain that. He's a lawyer. But many people will do the wrong thing. But if you have law enforcement, you prevent them from doing the wrong thing, and you help them to be accountable, and they turn out to be great people.
Okay, so Reverend Fuzz, thank you. Thank you for the call. I'm just going to keep going through because we have so many calls. Let's go to Greg. Hello, Greg.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Thanks for taking my call. Yes, I think we should use a common sense approach to this. I've seen a lot of abuses in the system, and there's some real concerns. Obviously, we have a system that tries to vet these that is not working. Yeah, there's some nice speech behind it, but the Boston bombers were supposedly vetted. That's inaccurate. So I think there's a lot of playing on our goodwill. I see just a lot of breakdown in the system. I don't trust it. I'm a ex-military person. I have a lot of military friends. We've seen some of the things across seas, and we don't want to see it come over here.
All right, I think you've hit on a lot. What about they've seen it, they don't trust it, they've seen horrible things overseas, they're scared about what may be coming over here. They don't trust our ability to vet people coming over.
Well, I would simply tell this caller that, first of all, just to correct something that he said, the Boston Marathon bombers were not refugees. They grew up in Boston, and they were alienated through certain religious zealotry, and of course no one is in favor or supports religious extremism. I think that ought to be rooted out. And I think that a lot of the names on that 700,000 terrorist suspect list are probably people that the FBI has tagged as being religious extremists. And so I'm all for keeping an eye on them, and but at the same time vetting the refugees as they come in. I don't see a failure, a systemic failure in the vetting of refugees. I'm sorry, I just haven't seen it, and it's never been brought to my attention.
Let's go to David. Hello, David.
Hello.
Hi, what's on your mind, David?
Well, I was just thinking about all this, and I just want to say.
We apologize for that. I want to go back to just the overall discussion here. How difficult is some of this rhetoric, some of this talk, making it for immigrants and immigration right now? I mean, what you're seeing, how concerned are you when you see what's happening in Paris and then some of the fallout?
Well, I think what's happening is extremely polarizing. Back in 2013, we had a real opportunity to do comprehensive immigration reform. And this effort was actually a bipartisan effort that was led by Democrats and Republicans who had the best interest of this country at heart. And I admire the Republicans that took a lead in doing that in 2013. I won't mention names because it could hurt them today, but I know who they are and I admire them. But today, such an effort as that, I think, is virtually impossible because of the polarization that this kind of Glenn Cassida talk has caused. And it's going to take a while for this to subside. I hope that we as a society have the maturity to think through this carefully and put our fears aside and think rationally about the systems that we have in place. And until we have refugees that have come into this country and have bombed us and terrorized us, then I think we need to rest secure in the systems that we've established. Once again, no refugee was involved in the Paris attacks. Those were not refugees. Those were homegrown terrorists. And we have 700,000 homegrown terrorists that can legally buy a gun today.
And so how optimistic are you that we can? You hear some of the talk on both sides, and actually many of the calls tonight were very respectful, and they were very good calls. But you hear the rhetoric up at the legislature, and you hear what's going on in many of the states across the country when it comes to immigration and immigration reform. Are you optimistic about where we're going, or are you concerned?
I'm concerned about our present state of mind as far as immigrants and immigration reform is concerned. But I also have faith in the American people. And I really believe that as soon as this season passes, and as soon as we can talk intelligently and rationally without emotion about the immigration and refugee issue, that we'll see the light. We've done it before. We've come out of these spasms of xenophobia before, and we'll do it again. It might take 2 or 3 years, but I am always optimistic when it comes to this country.
Take a break. Be back right after this.